Good morning. So we just had a nice little workout. We're ready for the day, man. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. It is 5:46 in the morning and we are ready to go. Let's check out this gas tank again. Man, that thing is just, it's not going nowhere. If anybody has any better ideas other than sloshing vinegar around in here, let me know. I'm basically trying to free it up from the back side where the lock mechanism is, where I assume most of the rust is. I've done like 2 months previously of pouring ATF transmission fluid and WD-40 and that sort of stuff into the actual lock itself, and nothing happens that way either. So today I've got to look at, we got to get these covers back on the engine. That will be a big step because then we will be headed in the right direction, which is a complete engine. We can put oil in it. I worry a little bit about not having oil in that engine for too long because I don't want rust to develop like inside the engine. You know, so that would be cool. And we got all kinds of new rubbers to put on there and get that thing tip-top shape. All right, so I'd like to get in here and take this alternator cover off, take a look at the alternator compartment and see what's going on there. I suspect that this is like a new alternator, relatively new alternator. It's definitely not the stock one because this is not a factory connection right there. So someone's definitely been in here and put a new alternator on there at some point, which makes me think there's probably a new regulator rectifier on this thing as well, this guy right here, because those things are a known issue on this bike. And somebody clearly had an issue with the electrics at some point, the charging system at some point on this bike, and they replaced the alternator and more than likely, reasonably, the regulator rectifier as well. So I'm hoping those things are still good and that we won't have issues getting the bike started or whatever down the line. Or I will at least have the luxury of being able to use the bike for a little bit before those things go bad. So before I start putting the covers back on, let's get all the covers off. And then we'll start from the bottom, work our way up. So pop this guy off real quick. So if it's not 10 millimeter, it's gotta be 8, because that's the rule. It can't be 9, it's never 9. Try and brush some of this dirt off here before we try and get the chunks off at least, you know? Oh, it's like Christmas, so we just have no idea what we're gonna find inside here. It is pretty loose already, huh? That was too easy. Of course I shouldn't speak too soon. If it's like the rest of the engine, there's some sort of dowel pin in there somewhere that holds stuff together. Oh, so there's a little bit of dirt in there, a little bit, like right down the bottom there. How crazy that is. So that's like static in there, bolted down, and then this guy spins around it. Bonkers. So yeah, there's just a little bit of dirt in there, and it's enough that I wouldn't want that spinning around in my engine for sure. Not that the sump wouldn't probably filter most of that out, but still, I'm glad we opened it up and took a look. So all right, I'm gonna clean up this stuff here, and we'll start putting things back together. It does have a funny, there's a creepy kind of smell to it. And specifically stuff like this, like if I'm spraying and dirt goes in, I want it to be able to drop down out of the oil pan, and that's why I have not put the oil pan on yet. I don't want to be just pushing random dirt into the bottom of the oil pan. Luckily it's really clean in here for the most part. I'm not like super concerned about taking this rotor part off. It's pretty cool though, man. This is a VFR engine. Like the environmental aspects of like waste, you know, like, so like I am a firm believer that used stuff is like one of the keys to to life. Buying and using used stuff is like a secret that, or something, like very few people do it, but man, does it make your life a lot better. It's like one of the smartest things you can do, and I don't know why more people don't do it. I think there's sort of like a stigma or something, right? But like most of my clothes and most of like all the tools in this garage, for the most part, all used, man. I buy all used stuff, and it's brilliant because it allows you to have a much better life. I mean, I've got tools and things, nicer brand clothes and things like that I wouldn't have otherwise. You couldn't afford them, because you're paying like at most half of retail, to get something that's been lightly used. It's like in brand new condition still a lot of the times. It's crazy. And like these pants I'm wearing right now, these are like, there's like a seller on eBay that sells like used work clothes, right? So there's all these companies that sometimes you see the Cintas truck driving around town, like where they go around to these different companies and whatnot that have, blue collar worker sort of stuff, and they basically launder their clothes. Like the companies basically rent clothes from Cintas, and so Cintas owns a whole bunch of clothes. And at some point, those clothes they only have so much of a lifespan within that business, but they're still totally good, or there's still ones in there that are totally salvageable. And so you can buy stuff that are like, these are Carhartt pants that I've got on that I got for like $10, which is a pretty good deal. And so, but they're like, yeah, they're broken in basically a little bit, but they're totally good, man. And then so I don't have any issue at all, like using them, making good use of them. Like I've burnt some holes in these things, welding, stick welding, and no big deal because they weren't expensive. And that's really like the best way to live, if you ask me, because then you're really living. Otherwise, I have a problem. If I spend $80 on something, I baby it and I don't get fully good use out of it, and that is a shame. But yeah, so that's just like one example, but like all of my stuff is like that pretty much. Same story. And my point is that I know a lot of stuff just gets thrown out that could be totally useful to somebody. And the problem is that there's not like a mechanism to get these used clothes or used items to somebody that can use them in an efficient manner that works for people. Because I understand that if you're selling something, there's an inconvenience to selling something. And so you're going to be deterred from selling something if it's too difficult, or if the cost reward thing doesn't balance out the way you need it to. You're going to be like, screw that, it's not worth my time. And you don't sell it, or you don't get rid of it. Or like Goodwill and those sorts of places, Salvation Army are probably like, I know a lot of people just go, I'll just donate it. Just donate it, man. And that works to a degree, but even then, like, they don't sell everything. Like, because believe it or not, if you're really cheap, there's a level below Goodwill. Because like Goodwill, when they don't sell something, they have a Goodwill outlet you can go to and get clothes. You buy them by the pound, where it's like a couple dollars a pound. You just fill up a cart with these crusty clothes. They're just thrown out on the floor basically for you to rummage through. And it's pretty awesome. But so you can get clothes that way, like super cheap. But I've gotten stuff there that is like really name brand, nice stuff. It's crazy that it doesn't, and it's all the stuff that does not sell at the store, or for whatever logistical reason, they just pass it through to this outlet section. And what's fascinating at that place is if they don't sell it, they bundle it up. Like if you've ever seen one of those compactor things for like cardboard boxes, where it's these giant like 1,000-pound like compressed bales, like that's what they do with the clothes. And like that stuff goes to like Africa. Like that's what they do. They sell that stuff overseas to these other countries that then they will go through and sell that stuff over there and reuse it in whatever way. And that's why, like, if you pay attention, like some of these places, like you you watch these videos of people like going through Africa, like motorcycle stuff. If you go to like watch like The Long Way Up or something like that, I forget which one it is where they go through Africa, but like you'll see these dudes, these people that live over there in the middle of nowhere. They're out in the sticks, man, and like they've got like a Nike t-shirt on. You're like, what is going on? Or even more interesting, they'll have like it's like a college shirt for some obscure college in the States somewhere, where it's like Auburn University or something, and you're like, what the hell does this dude in Africa have to do with Auburn University? Like stuff like that. He might not have any reference for Auburn University. He just bought this t-shirt because it looked cool. That's it, man. It's crazy. And that's what we call recycling a lot of the times. It's not that it actually gets like repurposed, but it gets just resold somewhere else where we can't see it, which is kind of crazy. And I think that happens with that used to happen with a lot of our like materials and stuff. The computer recycling, that was a big thing for years. It just went to China, man, and they dealt with it. It's like we just took our trash and went, yeah, send it to somebody else that has more time to deal with it. And it was, at the time, it was worth their time in China to deal with it. They were actually able to like get stuff out of it that was worthwhile. And due to the economics of the region at the time, like it made sense for them. But they stopped doing that at some point because they got rich enough or something. I don't know exactly, but where it was no longer worth their time to do it. At that point, we had a problem in the U.S. here where we went, oh, well, now we can't recycle computer stuff anymore. So I don't know. I just find that sort of stuff is kind of interesting. It's fascinating to me, the reuse of materials, because I always see like opportunity there. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely opportunity to make use of this stuff. It has value. A lot of things have a lot of value left in them before people throw them away. And if you're willing to make use of used stuff, like you can have some nice things, man, for cheap. You can live a pretty good life for cheap. All right, so this is pretty clean at this point. Now I'm gonna go ahead, clean the gasket stuff off of this one, and then I'll come back. Look at this gasket. I'm not sure if they even they just stuck a gasket on there and threw it in the engine. I think that's what happened. Oh my God, that was so easy. There's clearly no like gasket adhesive on that one. All right, so that guy's cleaned up now. Start thinking about putting stuff back on the bike. This is my shifter and everything down there. So this guy should, in theory, go into here somehow. I'm gonna be taking this back off to put gaskets on there. I'm just trying to get an idea of what it is I'm doing. I do have a diagram too, by the way. This is all just part of my process as an artist. All right, so I'm putting some silicone lubes, this assembly lube, on the end of this guy, and then also on the end of this guy, which is the same sort of little shaft here from yesterday on the other side. It goes all the way through the engine to the clutch. This is basically a clutch, I don't know what you call it, a rod. Oh, I see how it goes. All right, nice. Nice, man. All right, so now we need to get a gasket on this thing. We'll put it, now we know how it goes back together. Because this little spring here springs around this guy here, and that was what was making it difficult and making me question things. Here's this guy, let's try and get a gasket on there. There's my $300 gasket kit. Should be in here. It is. I should have gasket adhesive somewhere. Yes. All right, so here's our gasket adhesive. Copper spray a gasket thing. Basically just helps to stick this thing on here, make sure there's no little gaps, no way for this thing to not work. Well, this looks like a nice little gasket though, I gotta say. So this one clearly goes on like this. Go ahead and spray that and stick it on here. This adhesive stuff smells really weird. All right, let's get this on the bike. All right, I think we got it. All right, here's all my bolts and whatnot. Sprocket is in here. This is a drive chain guide plate. it goes on after this sprocket. All right, so I guess my two shorter bolts, there's only two, go up here. So 9 foot-pounds, familiar friend from yesterday, 9 foot-pounds, that, and then now this little bugger goes on there. It's like a chain guard thing that goes on. All right, I've got to get this guy out of the way because it is all funky. Clearly that's not where it's supposed to be, and it's just sort of loose on it at the moment. I'm just spinning that thing. All right, hold on. See, when I was turning that, this moved a little bit. That usually is an indicator that this axle is bent, which very well could be the case on this bike. All right, so this guy should sit where? Does it really sit way back there? But yeah, I mean, that can't be back there. Anyways, I will worry about that later. I want to get the sprocket back on there. Possibly. I don't know if I need to worry about this chain at the moment because the chain needs to come off. Oh, little sprocket. I'm gonna clean the sprocket up first real quick. All right, I'm pretty sure I forgot to hit record there, but I cleaned it up with a wire brush. Zap, zap, zap. Clean this up. And now, looks a lot better than it did. Let's see if we can get this sprocket on here. All right, so this bolt is supposed to be torqued to 38 foot-pounds. There we go. So this little fella goes on next. Next is this little chain guide thing. This is specifically for wear on the engine. So it's made of a heavier like steel, whereas the engine's made out of aluminum, and this is supposed to be there if the chain gets loose, it will wear on this guy first. So this is a sacrificial piece before it starts to eat into the aluminum on the engine. And then we got this guy here, this cover that goes over our little clutch rod there. Get this guy out of the way. So at the moment I'm a little bit bothered because I seem to have like some leftover bolts. Not sure where they all go. Like these two I'm pretty sure go right here to the clutch slave cylinder there. But this one I'm not sure about, and this one I'm not sure about. There's two more slots right here, or it must go to that stuff. It must, right? I typically like to neatly store them right back on where they were. That's my secret to not forgetting where stuff goes. Yes, there's a bolt that goes on that. Ah, there's two bolts that go on that. So that's what those two guys are. But I also have this little washer. Where does that guy go? Crap. So I just noticed that I believe this has got to be the speed sensor, but the way it works, like, so we just put that bolt on the sprocket, right? Look, this is like a little socket that fits right over that sprocket perfectly. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? And this just spins with the sprocket as it spins, and that's what tells you how fast you're going. That's bonkers, man. Go ahead and put that guy back on there. It's so simple. Like, the dude that came up with that, it's so simple. So this washer is, of course, this little washer is, of course, inside there. So I'm gonna take stuff back off, undo all this stuff, and hope that I don't ruin that gasket in the process. Oh, this is like my worst nightmare. All right. This is the problem when you're like too confident sometimes, or I don't know, maybe, is it confidence or is it like just being half-assed? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's a difference. I think I was kind of in a rush, man. I was trying to be fast. I was trying to get too much done. That's my problem. All right. Oh, I hope this comes off in one piece. Come on, buddy. Boy, that's not wanting to come off. All right, we're getting crazy. We're getting crazy here. There we go. All right, this might work. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes, my friends. All right, so there's a washer on this side. Oh God. All right, so there's supposed to be 2 washers. We're missing the. Oh, thank God. All right, so there's 1 washer right over here, and there's supposed to be another washer over there, and that's the one. Can you believe that? I almost freaking forgot this little washer on the inside, just like that. Oh, what? And what difference would that make? I have no idea, but I'm sure it's there for a good reason. All right, that's back in. Slap this thing back in there. Very precisely. Oh my God. Feels so much better. All right, put stuff back together here and torque everything back down to 9 foot-pounds. Wasn't that crazy? Wasn't that the most dramatic thing you've seen all day? All right, it's all back together. The day's been saved. All right, I would like to get the alternator cover and all that stuff back on there. So, get our little gasket kit out, grab a new gasket. This guy's gonna go on with a good spray here. Stick this guy on here over the dowel pins. That's why I'm doing it this way, is because the dowel pins are on the bike and not on the case. So it hangs nicely on dowel pins. Now we'll go get our case, put that back on there. Ooh, magnets. The magnets are real, dude. It wanted to go home. Alright, put all of our little bolts back in there and we are good. Torque it down to 9 foot-pounds, I'm sure. So my next steps are we've got this little cooling pump down here, this guy, that goes down right in there. And we've also got the slave cylinder for the clutch that goes right there. Those things have to go on. I've got a whole new clutch slave cylinder to put on there, like brand new unit, which is pretty awesome. And then I want to sort of rebuild this little pump guy here, and all these hoses are going to be replaced. So there's a little bit of organization that goes along with that. I'm probably going to hold off on that till tomorrow.